Good Friday reminds us that faith ain't easy, that it will be uncomfortable, challenging, disheartening. Sometimes it will look like the cross and all that is gruesome, wretched, and unholy about it. The good in Good Friday is God's response to it, but we're not there yet. So tonight I invite you to reflect with me, hear a portion of this early morning conversation between Pilate and Jesus, to hear their words and responses, their yearnings and questions, their humanity as our own, and if I may, in the quiet of this space that we're creating together, offer some Good Friday encouragement. For this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice. And Pilate asked him, "What is truth?" What is truth? Well, today truth is that since 2005, we can see the marked increase in mass shootings since the ban on automated rifles was lifted. Truth is climate change is real, and we are experiencing record levels of unpredictable and more dangerous weather patterns. What is true is that we are living in the aftermath of a global pandemic, and we are not yet on the other side of that healing. Mental illness and economic downturn, systemic injustice, the struggle for equity, access to affordable and quality education and health care. Ask any teacher and they'll tell you our children have not yet recovered from the academic losses of the pandemic or from the lived threat of gun violence in a place they spend sometimes more than half their lives. So what is truth? Each issue has an answer, sometimes frustratingly simple answers that could put us as a nation, a world, on the path towards wholeness. But the empire, created and controlled by our lust for money and power, and has its hand in each of the traumas and tragedies that I just listed, demands something else. It demands our complicity, our allegiance, our silence, our souls. Then, as now only a certain level of wealth can separate us from it, keep the specter of lack from darkening our doorways, but only for a time. And still the empire wants what it wants, and when it faces resistance or confrontation, its response is death. We see it in our reading for today. Jesus ascribes the name and the power behind that name, Yahweh, to himself, calls himself the Son of God, and empire conspires to kill him. But it's not that simple. On a more granular level, and especially on Good Friday, to say only empire kills Jesus, well, that's just not sufficient. Surely the people share in the collective responsibility for Jesus's death. So what happened here? Last Sunday, we aligned ourselves with the humble, peaceful movement of Jesus as he made his way toward Jerusalem. And on Thursday encountered again the Jesus who in the ritual of foot washing lays down a pattern of service and loving leadership, modeling what it means to be with and for each other. And we want this. It feels good to be in alignment with our humble leader, and with the crowd we waved our palms. This kind of leader can change the world. He can bring forth the dream of God. We want this. But by Friday, Jesus isn't flipping tables. He's being beaten and dragged through the streets, and at his trial offers no words that would halt his execution. He's ready to die, as Martin Luther King Jr. would say, standing up for something he believes in, and is preparing for what's next, the deeper and unseen work of God. He's using his power to give up his power. And that palm-waving crowd, well, where are they now? Can they wrap their minds around this shift? Are they getting tired? Are we? To be clear, the crowds for Palm Sunday and Good Friday are not the same. There are two crowds, one that came in with Jesus and the other comprised of the chief priests, elders, and some people who may have not known him. But where was the palm-waving crowd? Is there our voice growing dim? Jesus' politics of humility, forgiveness, and service stand in direct contrast to Roman rule, even the rule of our current world. His politics deplores pretense, and for us who claim Christ, his politics won't allow us to fake it. His way confounds and convicts us. It won't let us parade the halls of Rome or anywhere else for that matter, while simply giving lip service to the radical love, reconciliation, peace, and justice he represents. His politics requires more. It won't let us be silent. Hosanna, Hosanna, save us. Jesus is here to confront the empire and its authorities. And one of them is Pilate. Pilate is a former soldier turned politician under the thumb of Roman authority, and he finds Jesus, this radical leader of the movement, intriguing, perhaps worthy of a good lashing, but not death. The backstory of this comes from a dream his wife Claudia shared. Pilate remembers that dream, but he's got other concerns. As the face of Roman control, he's worried about the potential for chaos brought on by protest. He's insecure and vulnerable. Ultimately, this is about showing allegiance to Caesar by any means necessary. This wouldn't be the first time Pilate sold a piece of himself for power. It's all part of the game, the sacrifices and compromises, the unavoidable and often excruciating dilemmas. It can be crushing, this endless and unimaginable series of negotiations. Pilate's ties to the empires will keep him silent, in submission to it and its customs. And Jesus will die at the hands of a mob because of it. So when Pilate hands Jesus over, it's not because he's changed his mind about him. Pilate simply grew weary. The truth was too much work. Pilate had grown weary of the search, the work of confronting truth, of the thin line he walked as an assumed person of power. Pilate hands Jesus over to be killed because he's tired of wrestling with the truth, tired of the work of discernment, tired of the soul work of justice. He wasn't, or shall I say, isn't alone. In today's gospel, others grow weary. Judas experienced a unique expression of it. Fatigue as a lapse of morality when he betrays Jesus for a little fast cash. Peter got tired too. When identifying with a weak and vulnerable Jesus could cost him his life, he bailed. The examples are there for us to learn from and for us to see how easily it happens to the loyal, the faithful, the ordinary. People like you and me who wrestle with and participate in the reality of empire every day. And so each reading of this text should stir something in us, compel us toward an inward journey where we face the challenge of truth and our call to this important work, vow continually to commit ourselves to a renewed level of participation in the movement. We can't let fatigue keep us from answering the call. The work of truth-bearing and telling belongs to all of us. If we can learn anything from Pilate, it's that we can't let fatigue water down our commitment to it. This week, we're called to keep our eyes fixed on Jesus, the image of love on a cross, however broken it may be. And we're called to consider how mob mentality and groupthink conspire to kill it. In the middle of today's text, hear it. Pilate asked Jesus, "What is truth?" And I hear with this question a sigh, one of overwhelming, soul-weary exhaustion. Today, we're called to remember Pilate and the complexity of truth. We're called to be motivated by it, to stay strong in it, to not grow weary in doing the work. Slow results can be discouraging. Please don't give up. What we once called a miracle can appear unimpressive when paralleled against the fierce urgency of now. So much is at stake. Please don't give up. The pressure to conform or produce has the power to diminish your witness. Please don't let that happen. Don't give up. Wherever you're called to in the movement, we need your heart and your authentic voice. Take breaks when you need them, seek counsel, have a trusted colleague stand in your place, but please do not give up. Do not grow weary. As we mourn for our wounded world and pray and work for its recovery, I'm reminded that God has a plan after the tragedy and suffering, after our many failures, because there will be many, after the ruins. God has a plan. The good in Good Friday is God's plan after the cross, but we're just not there yet. And so, my God, why hast thou forsaken me, right? That feeling is real. The why have you left us, the we're so very tired, that feeling is real. It's absolutely part of this journey, and it's where we are today. Abandoned by his disciples, Jesus momentarily withdraws to that space of utter nothingness. Born of tears and grief, of disappointment and loss, Jesus enters this space of soul-crushing numbness. It's Good Friday, y'all. And we can join Jesus crying out to God, crying out to God.